Welcome to this edition of the Cow Report, and we're coming to you live from the beautiful downtown L.E. Phillips Memorial Library and taco stand, formerly taco stand. We had a house cleaning down here. We cleaned out all the stalls, chased off all the cattle and sheep and the goats and everything, getting ready for the big move. And boy, oh boy, we have a lot to talk about tonight. And of course, as usual, with me is my rusty, trusty sidekick, Fred, Go Pat Go, Stafford.
Hello there, Chuck. Hello there, viewing audience.
Glad to see you could make it tonight, Fred.
You bet.
I know it's a big chore for you sometimes to get down here on time, but tonight you made it. So we're always glad to see Fred Stafford with us. Okay. Well, Fred, we got all kinds of news to talk about.
Yes,
It looks like you came well prepared again.
I got a few things we can talk about.
And, of course, we like to have audience participation in this live call-in program. And college is back in now, so I'm sure we'll have plenty of callers wanting to know all kinds of informative information to inform us of. Now, Fred, I suppose you've been reading the papers the last couple of days.
Yes, sir.
Well, you see they got that Love Fest article with Steve Gunderson again.
Yes.
Isn't that something? Now, it's going to be a 5-part series. Of course, they spent a couple of days leading up to the 5-part series, so it's going to end up being more like a 7 or 8 day deal by the time it's done. But isn't it amazing, Fred, how they keep pushing this guy? Of course, the guy that wrote the article, his name is Eric, I don't know how to be unbiased if it came up and bit me in the rear end, Lindquist. And of course, he going to write this massive feely-goody article about Gunderson.
Yes.
Of course, you know, this is in anticipation and in preparation of Gunderson running again, Fred.
Yes.
So they get all this free press, this 6-7 days of all this heavy press, front page. Of course, the Leader Telegram on Sunday has something like 50 to 70,000 readers, and then on Monday it drops to about 35 to 50,000. So there'll be quite a readership here over the next few days. And of course, this paves the way for Gunderson to get back in the race because his brother just ain't going to be able to carry the water.
That's quite true.
And so at the last minute, Steve's going to say, I changed my mind. There's too much to do in Washington. We've got to get this milk price thing straightened out. We've been ripping the farmers off for 20-some years. You give me 2 more years and we'll get it straightened out. Gunderson.
Yes. What's the matter between now and next year?
I don't know. You'd think that they could have got it straightened out years ago, Freddie, but it pretty much drove the farmers out of Wisconsin. There's not many small farmers left. There's some big corporate farms, but the little farmer in the 3rd district is almost history.
Well, they've been going.
And that's
true.
under Mr. Dairy himself. Almost little farmers almost extinct.
Well, you have to think, too, that the Democrats didn't want this to change because they controlled Congress and they could have changed it before this.
Well, Freddie, it's going to be another long political campaign season coming up. It's already started with this 5 to 8 day enamel-polished love fest between the Leader Telegram and Steve Gunderson. And look at all that free press, Fred. You couldn't buy that with $10,000.
Yes.
But once again, the Leader Telegram is in bed with Steve Gunderson.
They apparently don't see anything wrong with keeping God's word, where God said, no man shall lie with another man, no woman lie with another woman. That's okay with them.
It's almost like, Fred, it's almost like they're trying to force us to like this guy. To keep shoving the propaganda to us day after day, we might start liking him.
Well, if he's going to run again, you might as well run again too, Chuck, and keep pinning his ears back.
Well, Fred, this program no longer has Chuck for your host.
It doesn't.
This is the Cow Report with Checky.
Who?
Checky.
Checky.
Checky Formel.
Yeah. I still think you have a wig on, but
What do you mean?
you got a wig on there.
I think you need glasses.
Yeah?
I noticed that you're pretty well dressed up there. Get down there, I'll knock that other tooth out. What are you all dressed up for anyway?
I went to a funeral today.
Well, there you go again, messing the setup. Leave that on and just put it back in there.
Oh.
Okay, well, while he's messing around with that, we'll get back to the program here. But don't be fooled, ladies and gentlemen of the viewing audience. Steve Gunderson will come out of retirement and run again. His brother is just not going to cut the mustard. His brother cannot, Matt Gunderson cannot fill Steve Gunderson's shorts. They've already found out by the polling, Fred, that Matt just cannot cut the mustard. He can't make it.
Yes.
And so for them to keep the machine alive and greased and everything,
Yes, Chuck.
they've got to run Stevie Boy,
Yes, Chuck.
little Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
Now, what's with that hat anyway?
Well, this is the hat for the man who's going to be our next president.
You just don't move now. You got to turn that up. There you go, pretty. Okay, we should have the sound up and running now. Of course, we will be taking calls, Fred, and they're already backed up. Now, you know, Fred, this Chechen war over there in the former Soviet Union,
Yes?
well, we're coming to find out now that the Russians have admitted to losing 307 tanks. And even under Russian standards, a tank is expensive.
Yes.
Of course, the United States pays for it
Yes.
by all the money we send over there. They admit to losing 307 of the 1,200 armored vehicles they sent into the campaign to disarm illegal armed groups. In other words, freedom fighters. So, the Russian forces entered Chechnya December 11th, and they're still bogged down in there. And now they're claiming that they only lost 1,400 Russian troops, but it's more like 14,000. And about 50,000 Chechen men, women, and children were slaughtered, ambushed, throats cut, heads chopped off, legs cut off, run over with tanks, hung upside down, boiled in oil, you name it. The Russian animals killed them in as many different ways as you can think of. They would even take young boys out into the farm, out into the back of the house and poke their eyes out in front of their parents before they shoot them in the head. It was just a massacre over there. And of course,
Yes.
the Chechen people were grossly armed and underfunded to fight that war against these animals.
That's
But these are the
quite
animals
true.
that Steve Gunderson and other traitors in Washington keep financing. This former Soviet Union, this godless empire, is still in place, Fred, and they're still killing people. They're still building submarines. They're still building tanks. And lo and behold, Fred,
You know, there's something which I think is very interesting. I didn't see anybody at the Ames Republican caucus from the 3rd District, although there may have been some people from La Crosse, but none of the officers that I knew. Doug Knight wasn't there, neither was Harlan Reinders, the chairman of the party here, and I believe that that is a place that they should have been.
it's one of the most important functions of the year as far as conservative politics. There was 3 main get-togethers this year, Fred. First
Yes.
one was Dallas, Texas, Ross Perot's group, the Parasites. Second one was Ames, Iowa, with 12,000 Republicans and 9 or 10 Republican candidates. And the third one was the Christian Coalition's annual
Right.
meeting that just
Today.
took place with 4,100 delegates from around the nation.
Right.
Those were the 3 big ones. I made it to one of them. You made it to one. I almost made it to the other 2, but due to slow finances, Fred, I couldn't make it. But getting back to the Russian butchers, Fred,
Yes.
they have just launched a new generation of intercontinental ballistic missiles on Tuesday. That was last week. From the Plesetsk Cosmodrome, 1,000 kilometers north of Moscow. Ivan Saranov said that it was a test launch of the missile called the Topol-M, which would soon replace SS-18 ballistic boosters. The Topol-M uses solid fuel, which is safer than the liquid fuel used in the SS-18. Russia hopes to replace all its outdated missiles in the coming years. And with the billions of dollars that Germany and the United States have given to them, I bet you they will be able to replace them, Fred.
They probably will get us to throw in some more to take the disarmament.
Well, they're going to re-adopt 90 of the 154 silos holding SS-18s will be adopted for this new Topol-M. So those 90 missiles, where do you think they're going to be pointed at?
USA.
You and me. That's where, and they're going to be pointed at us with our own money, Fred.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, we've bailed out a failing communist empire for what, the 7th, 8th time? You've been alive every one of the times we bailed them out during your lifetime, Fred. They've been on the brink of disaster and bankruptcy, and we've always been, the United States comes in and bails them out.
Yes.
Okay, Freddie, well, we better take a phone call and see what we got here. Are you ready?
You bet.
Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hi, well, number one, Packers are killing the Bears.
They are.
Yeah.
I didn't know anyone was even
Great.
watching that thing over there. They're supposed to be
Great.
watching this show.
Yeah. Anyway, number two, I called you about a year ago and left a message on your, I don't know if it was your office phone or your home phone or whatever, and I told you that you don't even have a grasp on what's going on with the dairy farmers, and I told you, that it's very upsetting when you claim to know something. Just because you're from Wisconsin doesn't mean that you have a clue of what's going on.
Well, there's somebody that doesn't know much, Fred. What's there to know? Farmers are hurting in this state.
Yes.
The few that are left,
Yes.
I think there's only about 20 left in the 3rd district.
I think there's more than that.
Okay, all right. There you have it. Let's take another call, see what's going on. We might have some sound difficulties here. There, something's picking up. Okay, go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, well, I want to agree with you first about the Eau Claire paper. They're really very pro-Gunderson, aren't they?
Yes, it's just a pathetic bunch of milquetoast down there. They take their marching orders from those liberals that own the thing, and they say, we've got to promote Steve Gunderson. He's going to save the world. Save it for what?
Well, what do you think the conservatives are going to do if Gunderson changes his mind and runs again?
Well, they're going to...
Don't you think the Brill campaign was basically a disaster? We ended up having Gunderson again, and we got more of this liberal, ultra-liberal, baloney coming from this guy. I mean, we gotta retake the party here. We got to come up with somebody better than Brill who can do it.
Well, Gunderson is basically a liberal Democrat now. He brought Democrats in here. See, the Democratic Party has collapsed, so the new Democrats are the liberal Republicans. They've picked up the banner, and they're running with it now because the Democratic Party is in full retreat and is collapsing all around us. So the liberal Republicans are having to push the leftist agenda, and Steve claims he has this Tuesday Breakfast Club or whatever it is that goes in and blackmails Newt Gingrich from time to time to get what they want, and he says, if you don't give it to us, we will withhold our vote. Well, he needs to get out of the party if that's the way he's going to act.
Right. Well, are conservatives getting organized to prevent him from running again, or what's going on with that?
Well, they've always said as long as Steve Gunderson wants to be the 3rd District Congressman, he'll be it, because he's got a 20-year machine that goes back to when he was in Madison. He's getting close to where he can raise $1 million per campaign now. How can an incumbent beat him unless the purse strings are taken away from him, the legalized bribery money that he takes every campaign cycle? How is anyone going to beat him? There's no one out there with $1 million. That's why somebody like Brill had to run, because nobody else was willing to run against Gunderson. Brill actually was kind of a hero because he stepped up to the plate and ran when nobody else would.
Well, yeah, I understand that,
And-
but I mean, he ended up losing to this guy who was just a total disaster. I mean, the guy's a complete write-off as far as a Republican.
Well, he needed a little more money and a little more time, and unfortunately, he didn't get both of them.
Well, I mean, don't you think that conservatives should be getting organized and get somebody ready just in case?
Yeah,
What
it's,
about Harsdorf? Isn't he running already?
Is Harsdorf, I don't know if he announced yet he was a candidate.
don't expect him to be carrying any conservative banners for you. He's already made it clear that he's not a conservative.
So you think if Gunderson announced he'd run again, Harsdorf would back away?
Harsdorf's campaign would collapse, and so would Matt's. Matt is just kind of out there keeping the name going. Matt cannot win the 3rd district race. He already knows it unless Steve pumps $500,000 into his campaign. It's the only way Matt can win because Matt's too far to the left. Matt's he's farther to the left than a lot of Democrats in this state. He calls himself a libertarian, but he's pretty far out there.
All right, well, thank you.
So you need to
Welcome.
beat the Bushes and find some good, strong conservative that's willing to run.
All right.
Okay. What do you think about that, Fred?
I agree with you, although I think if Don Brill were to start running now, he would probably stand a good chance of winning.
Yeah, but you would think he would start by now. Why don't you run, Fred?
No way.
You're never too young to start.
I'm 78 years old, and I'm feeling my age.
Well, you should think about it. Brill was 72.
Yeah, well, if I had his background, I'd certainly consider it.
I know what you mean. Okay, well, Freddie, getting back to Russia there, we're helping them remodel their old
Right.
leaky missiles so that they can point nice, brand new ones at us, Fred. There's nothing worse than having these old, antiquated anti-ballistic missiles pointed right at America. By God, if America is going to have missiles pointed at them, they want brand new ones.
Ballistic missiles, not anti-ballistic.
Okay. All right, Freddie. Well, you remember Jimmy Hoffa.
Yes,
What do you know about him?
he was the president of the Teamsters Union
Well, Jimmy Hoffa Jr. is running.
for the same office.
He says that the former powerful Teamsters need a strong leader, and 54-year-old labor lawyer and executive assistant to the president of the Michigan Teamsters Joint Council, Jimmy Hoffa Jr., is going to run for the November 1996 election against a guy named Kerry. Hoffa says it's time to get the unions back in shape and keep jobs in America.
Yes.
And you know, Fred, my new motto is not only buy American, but hire American.
Right.
Because if you don't hire American, you're not going to be able to afford to buy American.
Well, we need some good-paying jobs here that a man can earn a living wage and support a family.
I know what you mean. Okay, go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
I agree with what you just said about hiring American stuff. Why did all, the Asians come into this country?
The Asians came into this country because they fought for the United States CIA in a war called the Vietnam or the Southeast Asia conflict during the 60s and 70s. And when the United States pulled out, the communists moved in and started massacring Cambodians, Laotians, and Vietnamese that were loyal to the United States and helped fight against the communist insurrection. And so when the United States pulled their troops out and tried to Vietnamize the military, the thing collapsed within a few months. The communists started killing, especially the Hmong, because the Hmong were fierce warriors and fought side by side with the American troops. Something like 50% of every Hmong male over the age of 16 was killed during the Southeast Asian conflict. The ones that made it over here were fought for the United States, and as a reward, they got out of the country. A lot of their comrades did not. The few that made it over here is why we have 2,000 Hmong in here in this town, basically, and their descendants.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Isn't that about right, Fred?
Yes.
We've talked to several of them, seen the wounds of some of them, and they've told the stories about being tortured by the communists. And one of them I met was a prisoner of war for almost 20 years, and boy, they really messed with his head and his body during the time he was a prisoner. He finally got away from them, but it was bad news over there. And I've talked to American soldiers that fought side by side with them, and they said they would fight hand-to-hand combat against those communists. They would fight with sticks because they were defending their homeland, Fred. That was their homeland, Laos. That's why so many of them lost their lives. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, I want to know what your opinion was on all the tuberculosis in the cows. Like lately, what you think, if that's going to be a big problem, or...
Well, if it ain't one thing, it's another with them cows. You know it?
Yep.
We try to elevate the cows here on this program and put them up on a pedestal, but they certainly don't need any tuberculosis in the cows. You know, Fred, yeah, and you certainly don't want to drink any milk that has TB in it.
Right. I'm not drinking any milk as it is.
I've kind of shied away from it too, Fred, but there are...
My mother weaned me when I was young.
But milk products are used in hundreds and hundreds of...
I do use butter, and I have bought ice cream and yogurt.
Yes.
And I buy some cheese.
Okay, Freddie, we're going to let you talk about something here before we take our next call. We had to get that backlog built up there.
I see
built down.
The New American Magazine, in the front page article, is Worldwide Welfare. U.S. insiders Rubin and Greenspan want to reform the IMF, and that is to allow them to lend more money, especially to third world nations. And in June summit of a group of 7 industrial nations in Halifax, their bold proposal, authored by Rubin, supposedly is meant to increase help for the insolvent nations and see them through insolvency, prevent another Mexico-style crisis, just as if this were proper constitutional function of our government. But stripped of the flimsy, altruistic camouflage, their proposal is seen to have quite different objectives.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, Fred. What does that mean in layman's terms?
In other words, we're going to lend more money to the IMF so they can pour it into these third world nations.
That's nothing new, Fred. That's what the United States taxpayer was made for.
No.
To pump money all over the world.
Well, we got to stop that, and that's why we need to get somebody like Pat Buchanan in there who will stop it.
You mean we should take care of Americans first so they're not...
Right on.
So they're not sleeping on the sidewalks and going hungry?
Right.
Boy, that's pretty radical thinking there, Fred. Somebody might come and get a hold of you. Keep thinking like that. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Okay, hi. I want to hear you. You always talk about labels, liberals and conservatives. I want you to describe to me what the difference between your idea of a liberal and your idea of a conservative is, and explain why you think then that Steve Gunderson is a liberal. And I have one other point. If we're trying to lower our deficit, then why does it make sense to cut Medicare and then turn right around and give the savings off as a tax break? Why shouldn't we hold off on any kind of tax break until the deficit has been taken care of? Then you can tax break up the wazoo. Thanks.
What do you think about that, Fred?
Well, he has a point there. He has a point. But I do think by giving tax breaks, it's going to enable the people to spend more money for what they want and need, and therefore that's going to be good for the economy.
Yeah, Fred, the more money in the economy, the better off the economy is, without hoping that it won't heat up and get inflation going again full blast. But, you know, the Democrats have put out the scare tactics that the Republicans are going to gut the Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security and all that stuff. Social Security is already bankrupt. You open up the Social Security vault, and all that's in there is a bunch of IOUs. The money that's sent in this week goes right out the door to pay for Social Security. There's nothing in reserve. It's broke, busted. The people running it are fakes, phonies, and frauds. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air. Okay, Freddie. A bat caused the only case of human rabies in this country so far this year, Fred. That was discovered around August 31st.
Yes.
A 4-year-old girl in Washington State died a week after going to the hospital. Bats are the leading cause of rabies in humans, accounting for 12 of the 25 cases diagnosed in the United States since 1980. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said. The other cases occurred in people who came from other countries, and almost all were caused by dogs. So the first case of rabies this year was a bat, Fred.
Yes.
So you got to be careful when you're handling those bats.
Yes.
The first vaccine against rabies for dogs was developed by who?
Jonas Salk. Dr. Jonas Salk.
Pretty close, but it's Dr. Louis Pasteur, 1884. In 1885, he demonstrated that his vaccine could prevent development of the disease in humans and animals, Freddie.
Yes.
Humans and animals. All right, Freddie, now that reminds me.
Yes.
On this date in history, September 11th, 1777, General George Washington is badly defeated by British General William Howe at the Battle of Brandywine while defending Philadelphia. What war was that during?
That was the Revolutionary War.
That's right. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, can I speak to Fred, please?
Yes.
Yeah, it's right here.
Hey, Fred, how you doing?
All right.
I was just wondering, who died today?
Father Francis Hillsheim, the pastor of Sacred Heart Catholic Church.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Was he the acting pastor? Was he the...
Well, he was relieved as pastor a month or so ago, and he had been living in the St. Francis Apartments and going for treatment to Sacred Heart Hospital.
How old was he?
He was born in, I think it was 28.
All right, Freddie, what do you got there?
Well, I was just looking here. We have a couple of interesting things. Newt Gingrich is working to dispel the myth of an isolationist Congress, and he has gone on to say, if we don't lead the world, I think we will have a continuing decay into anarchy. He went on to say that the U.S. is now married to the world. These sentiments were intended to dispel the myth that the Republican Congress is somehow isolationist in character.
You know, Fred, a few things I agree with Gingrich is, now one, he just came out the other day and said that he thinks that anybody caught at the borders smuggling in vast amounts of drugs, heroin, cocaine, should be executed. He says you execute 20, 30 of them, and that'll stop that nonsense. Because they'll go back to Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan and Mexico and Colombia, and they'll tell their buddies, hey, Johnny got executed up there bringing drugs into the United States. And he's going to introduce a bill, if he hasn't already introduced it here this week, for the death penalty
Well, that would be good.
for major importers of drugs into this country. All right, Freddie, we better take a call here. We haven't taken one for a while. But first of all, I'm going to ask you another question on what happened on this date in history. Are you ready?
Let her go.
1941, President Franklin Roosevelt announces that the American Navy will fire on German U-boats sighted in American waters. 1941, September 11th. What war was that?
World War II.
That's right. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Chuck, how's it going tonight?
All right.
Hey, about Newt and killing off all them drug dealers. You know that's never going to go through how good of an idea that really is.
What do you mean? There's too many drug addicts in Washington, or what?
Oh, that's a possibility. You look at Marion Barry, he can get reelected out there.
So we're talking about the ones that bring in 1,000 pounds of cocaine or 500 pounds of heroin. Those kind of dealers that are bringing it in and dumping it into the cities, and then that's when you see the gang warfare going crazy, when the pure drugs hit the street.
Oh, you could legalize it too.
You want to legalize heroin?
Might as well. This could be their own damn fault if they die from it. First, no responsibility, the American way.
And if you legalize it, you're saying, sure, go ahead and give it a try.
Yeah.
All right, Freddie, another case of post-Christian America. All right, what do you got there, Freddie?
Well, I got a little something here on also from the New American Magazine. Timothy Worth, the Clinton administration under Secretary of State for Global Affairs, complained in a speech at an annual meeting of the Ecological Society of America, ESA, that forces against reason, against science, against progress, and against the environment are ascendant. According to Worth, self-servicing, outdated special interests which seek to scale back the economic agenda of the Clinton administration and the UN are waging war on civilization.
Okay, now what's that mean?
Well,
For the folks at home that
it
can't
means
read and
that
write.
it means that some of these plans they have are false as far as what they claim is going on in the environment.
All right. Okay, I think we have a call on line 1, Fred.
Yes.
Roy, I can't hold him up much longer here. All right. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, what's on your face right now?
Fred or me?
Why you got goofy glasses on and that purple dot on your face?
What dot?
Big purple dot on your face.
I've been wearing these glasses for years on this show. What's it
Oh,
been
wait.
now, Fred? 20, 25 years?
No. No.
Okay. All right, Freddie. Belgium researchers said they have found the best cure for head lice.
They did.
And you know, this time of year, school starting in, we get a bunch of kids with head lice, and they come
Yes.
into the classrooms, and before you know it, everybody in the classroom's got it.
Yes.
So here's the latest cure for it, and it's called, only products that contain 1% permethrin were 90% effective after a single application, Fred.
Yes.
Other common treatments such as malathion and carbaryl were not effective enough to clear up an outbreak of lice, they found. Older treatments such as Lindane hardly worked at all. Lindane's probably what you used back when you were in school, wasn't it?
No, I didn't use it.
Okay. So there you have it, Freddie. It's lice time again at the old school.
I lent a comb to a guy one time, and next thing you know, I had head lice, and I don't want my mother used to get rid of it.
What did she use?
I don't know.
She got rid of it, though, huh?
Yes.
I wonder how many kids in the family got it.
Only me.
Huh.
You know,
Okay,
that thing that you got is moving around from one side of the face to the other. Is it alive?
I don't have any idea what you're talking about. We better take a
So-
call here, Fred.
It's a dot on your
No.
left cheek now.
Have you got anything else to talk about besides that same thing again?
Well, Vietnam rehabilitation.
Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
You think you're funny?
About moving the black thing around?
What, Fred? Okay, Freddie.
Yes. On
September
July,
12th, 1953, John F. Kennedy was married to this woman.
yes. Jackie.
Jackie who?
Jackie Onassis. But her name wasn't Onassis until after he died.
She didn't even know who Onassis was in
But
1953.
I know that. He was first married to somebody else.
In
And
1953,
father
Fred.
had that annulled.
John F. Kennedy wed Jacqueline Lee Bouvier.
Yeah.
All right.
I couldn't think of the last name.
Fred, remember those two skinheads that killed their parents and one of their brothers?
Yes?
They're being tried as adults.
Yes.
And a cousin that helped, he's also going to be
That in
tried.
California?
No, this was right in Pennsylvania, Allentown. Two skinhead brothers. They had
Oh.
tattoos on their foreheads and on their necks. They were, I think they were both, one was 17, the other one was 16, and the cousin was 18. Three of them killed the two brothers' parents
Well,
and
that's
an
too
11-year-old brother, and then fled and were later arrested in Michigan, and trial for them will be starting January 8th, 1996.
Mm-hmm.
So another group of youngsters who've wasted their lives, Fred.
Yes.
Now they probably won't get the death penalty, but they'll get 30, 40 years in prison. Their lives are done now. Thousands of cases of that every year, Fred.
Well,
Of youth lost for their whole generation. They're wasted.
well, they got so much violence on TV and in the movies that that's where the kids get it from.
Okay. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Chuck, how you doing? Missed you all summer.
You did. Where you been?
Oh, well, we went away, it was summer break. It's good to see you back. We have a question for you. You were just talking about lice.
Yeah.
That medicine that you had for lice, I mean, this is a serious question. Does that work for genital crabs at all, since they're more or less the same species?
I imagine it would. It's supposed to be 90% effective, Freddie.
Yes.
All right, Fred, what do you got there now?
Vietnam rehabilitation. On July 28th, Vietnam was admitted into the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, as seen, which was created in '67 as an anti-communist alliance. As is the case with NATO, as seen, Potemkin facade of anti-communism has been removed, and the organization's true purpose, regional consolidation preparatory to global political merger, has become overt.
Okay. A so-called Wild West law went into effect Friday in Texas, Freddie.
Yes,
You
they can
Pack a gun.
pack a gun.
Can't take one into church, funeral parlors, or bars, but just about everywhere else is wide open, Freddie. You can pack a gun, and as long as you can pass the tests, and of course they want to get that in this state. What do you think about that, Fred? Are you ready to pack a 45 in your?
No,
in your boot?
I'm not really ready to do it, but I don't object to others doing it.
You don't?
No.
You don't think that'll cause shootouts somewhere?
Well, if they properly screen those who get the permits to carry them, I don't think it's going to cause any problem. It will cut down on some of the crime, people who try to hold up others.
Yeah, it might take care of a few cases there, Freddie, but somebody that's drunk or something and they got that concealed weapon, it just makes it a little easier for them to pull it out and start shooting. That's what you have to worry about in this day and age. the wild, wild west in just about every big city now.
The unfortunate part about it is the criminals have the guns.
Yeah, this might even up things a little bit. Okay, go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yes. My name's Tom Anderson, and I got a couple of boys next door that bug me all the time and are stealing my cat stuff. And I just wonder what I should do about that.
I'll let Fred answer that.
What's that now?
He says they're stealing stuff out of his litter box.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I'm getting fed up with it now, you know. Damn boys.
Well, I don't know what to tell you about that.
They breaking in your tool shed or something?
No, just been taking small things here and there, moving them around on me, and I don't know what to do. I thought I'd ask you two fellas.
That isn't too good.
Well, what's Fred? People call in here; they want answers.
Well, yeah, they took my lawn chair last week.
What do you think they should do?
Well, he's got to take them in when instead of leaving them out where they can take them.
Yeah, it's kind of like you leaving your windows down in the rain all the time.
I got quite a bit of stuff outside there, though, and I don't know, I can't really put it all in, so.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've informed the police about this, haven't you?
Yes, I have, and I don't know who's doing it, though, you know, and they can't really do too much.
You don't know who's doing it? Or you do?
What's that?
Do you know who's doing it?
No, I'm not sure. I think it's one of the neighbor boys.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised.
Okay, well, you'd think Freddie would have more to say about this. You think that's okay?
No, I don't.
Didn't you have kids down there bothering your car there one time, a few years ago? Stealing hubcaps or something?
Not mine.
Like, I know one guy, they were stealing radios, and he had them arrested. Threw them in jail.
Yes.
That's what they did, Fred. Well, Freddie, there's bad news coming out of Caracas, Venezuela.
Yes?
Very bad news. There's a mysterious tropical disease has swept through a coastal region of Venezuela, leaving 3,000 people ill and killing 2. The disease in the sweltering western state of Zulia on Venezuela's Caribbean coast has also killed large numbers of animals, mainly horses and donkeys. Officials said the disease, which causes fever, convulsions, and vomiting, may be dengue fever, which is transmitted by mosquitoes, or another virus called encephalitis equina. About 10,000 Venezuelans have fallen ill in previous outbreaks of dengue so far this year. And they're saying, Fred, that now this dengue fever is poised to come into the United States. It's right at the Mexican border now. And there could very well already be cases of it in southern Texas. It's a very serious disease. It's passed through mosquitoes. And, of course, we have a bumper crop of mosquitoes up here. It's just another example, Fred, of a virus that is passed through with mosquitoes, which lends more credence to the idea that possibly the HIV virus could be passed through mosquitoes, because it's a lot smaller than a lot of these other diseases that are being passed by mosquitoes.
Yes.
Well, what do you think about that, Fred? You were down there in Panama when they built the Panama Canal.
No way I
I
wasn't.
thought you were in the Merchant Marines down there.
No. Nope.
No mosquitoes in that area?
I was in the Coast Guard here and on the East Coast mostly.
So you didn't have much problem with mosquitoes then?
Not too much.
Well, anyway, Fred, this fever's coming up this way and it's killing all kinds of animals this day. What do you got there, Fred, before we take some more calls here?
Well, Senator Hutchinson stops the Dornan Amendment to end abortions in U.S. military hospitals. And this is from the RNC, the Republican NC for Life, National Committee for Life.
Roy, are you with us tonight? Roy Rogers Hoff in the control room. There he is.
And also Hatfield supports abortions for federal employees, Senator Hatfield.
Yes, it's amazing, Fred. The pro-abortion forces are on the march.
Yes.
And, of course, in a way, Fred, this might work to the pro-life's benefit because eventually they're going to weed this thing out of the federal level and push it back into the states and cut off people like Planned Parenthood / Murder Incorporated and cut off that almost $200 million of federal funds they're getting and push this back to the states and let the states decide whether they're going to fund that or not.
Representative Bob Livingston, Republican of Louisiana, zeroed out the $193 million slated for Title X, which would have denied Planned Parenthood continued easy access to some $40 million in taxpayer dollars for the reproductive health clinics.
Yes. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, Charlie.
Yeah.
Charlie. You guys, I watch you once in a while, and I don't know if you're watching the Packer game tonight, but that's immaterial.
Well, who's ahead?
Controversial thing that's.
Who's winning?
Pardon?
Who's winning?
Last time I looked was the Packers, but I've been watching you, so I don't know who's winning.
Well, that's good. I hear there's very few people watch those Monday night football games.
I just want to throw a little thing at you guys because you talk politics and everything and else. A couple of weeks ago, our good president, Mr. Clinton, put up a thing that he wants passed about banning all cigarette sponsors in motorsports. And that's starting with NASCAR that I've loved for 35 to 40 years, the Richard Petty and all down through the line. And R.J. Reynolds and many others have sponsored people such as Michael Jordan with scholarships, and now they're hitting on NASCAR, which is probably the fastest growing sport in the United States. I'd like to have you and Fred do a little comment on that, if you would.
About cigarettes advertising on the NASCAR circuit?
On NASCAR or any sport, if it should be allowed or if it shouldn't be allowed. I mean, it's a free enterprise, the tobacco industry, and all our good politicians are talking. It's enticing the kids. Why, let's go to the parents and take care of the kids instead of, I'd just like to hear you guys comment on that.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
What do you think about all that advertising?
I agree that the parents should keep control of this and should see that their children don't smoke.
You know, Fred, I saw in a convenience store the other day, I saw the person in there running the store had a button on it that says, "We check IDs for cigarettes and alcohol."
Yes.
And that's something new that you're seeing now. But if these stores and taverns and everywhere will make it harder for a kid to walk in there with a note, supposedly from his parents, to get those cigarettes, and outlaw any kind of selling to any minors, then there wouldn't be such a big problem with all this advertising. But some of this advertising is definitely geared towards the children. And it's in magazines and on billboards and in newspapers where children see it.
They have also distributed them around schools, the little freebies that they give out.
Now with NASCAR, this is something you pay to get in there and see, so this could be a different story, Fred. It's a paid event for people that want to go see that, so in that case, that money is willingly spent on that. But this passive advertising, like a billboard, especially billboards around schools that are pushing Cools and every other kind of cigarette, that there I'm against.
Yes.
All right, Freddie. September 11th, 1850. Jenny Lind, the Swedish Nightingale, opens her famous American concert series in New York. What was her name?
Jenny Lind, of course.
Do you remember her?
Yeah, I heard of her, yes.
Well, she must have been 100 years old, well, probably about 80 years old back in the 1920s.
I don't know for sure. I thought she was younger than that.
Well, she was singing in 1850.
Oh, 1850. Yeah, I heard of her.
Okay, Freddie. Did you know that the United States is about ready to give away the Panama Canal? That date's coming up pretty quick. Now, that was under President Carter.
Yes.
gave away that Panama Canal. That's supposed to be handed over December 30th, 1st, 1999.
I know some of the Panamanians don't want it to be handed over.
A lot of Americans don't want it either because that country, that Panama Canal was built out of land that the United States bought from Colombia.
Yes.
And that's why they call it the Panama Canal Zone. It was owned, wholly owned land by the United States. Had nothing to do with Panama. I don't
Yeah.
even think there was a Panama when the Panama
No, that
Canal was built.
that came into being after or what?
That's right. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Chuck. How's it going?
All right.
I like that outfit that you're wearing today.
You do?
Yeah, it's really nice. I like that one that you wore with the knife on your hat, though. Whatever happened to that? Is it stuck up Fred's asshole?
Okay, Freddie. What do you got there?
Well, I got a little something here. Senator Phil Gramm, Democrat, Texas, is credited with stopping the confirmation of Dr. Henry Foster as U.S. Surgeon General because of his early denunciation of Foster and his commitment to filibuster should the nomination go to the floor of the Senate. Knowledgeable observers say that Graham's leadership caused Senator Dole to work harder to secure the votes against confirmation.
Fred, Foster's long gone.
Yeah, I know that.
That's old news. Vince Foster's dead.
Yes, yes. This is Henry Foster.
Well, it must have been his cousin. They're both gone.
Okay. He was a black man.
Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hi there.
Hello.
How you doing, Chucky?
All right.
I'm getting sick of these kids these days putting dog shit on my door and letting down fire. What's that do?
When did they do that?
Oh, it's kind of embarrassing, but a couple days ago, my wife put it out.
Yeah? Did she step on it?
Yes. It was terrible.
Fred, have you ever had that happen to you around Halloween?
No.
Somebody lights a bag and you go out on the porch and there's a bag on fire and you stomp on it?
No. Never had that happen.
Huh.
Thanks.
Okay, well, that's happened to some people. Fred, did you know that at least 22 women have died this year in Niger's biggest maternity hospital for lack of blood transfusions because of fear of AIDS? It's caused the Nigerian blood banks to run dry.
Is that right?
Niger registered 1,697 AIDS cases between 87 and 94 in a population of more than 8 million. Authorities in the West African country expect the number of cases of the disease which kills by destroying the body's immune system to rise to 8,700 by 1998. But so people are afraid to even give blood, Fred.
I was reading where two doctors say that this treatment for it accelerates the disease. In other words, if they have a high HIV, it develops into AIDS faster.
With the AZT treatment?
Yes.
AZT? Yeah, they're finding out now that in some cases people live longer without, or they live about the same amount of time with it or without it. There are some unorthodox treatments going on down in Mexico, Fred, where they're injecting food-grade peroxide into people to cleanse their blood. And there's a lot of Mexican, or several Mexican clinics that are experimenting with alternative medicines to cure cancer and HIV infection. Okay, Freddie, we better take another call here. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how you feel about the comment on the smoking. Are you pro or not?
Well, I smoked for 20 years and quit, so I'm not a very good one to be asking. I'm against the billboard advertising or any blatant, overt advertising of it, especially where children can see it, and you know how advertising goes. It's basically to glamorize the product that is trying to be sold, and the younger generation sees that and it is influenced by that at an early age, especially in magazine, billboard, and newspaper type advertising where they have easy access to it.
Okay, I have just a week and a half. I have quit now, and I have been a smoker for 20 years, and I think that it is the worst drug that there is, and I think that the government should not be involved in any way, sort, or form of subsidizing, and that it should be illegal 100%. And I mean, I smoked and I enjoyed it, and I still would like to have a cigarette, but I don't think that they should have any involvement in it, and I think it should be illegal 100%.
Well,
that's good.
It's definitely been a cash cow for government. On one hand, they've got all kinds of programs to get people to stop, and on the other hand, they take a big hunk of the taxes that are generated from the sales of tobacco products to finance other parts of government. So it's,
Right, they can't lose. They can't lose because they're subsidizing it. Plus, they're
but see, the bottom line is though, something like 400,000 people a year are dying from lung cancer, various forms of emphysema, cancer of the lungs, lips, throat, esophagus, and other skin cancers, and it's nothing but nasty. It'll kill you.
It's a dirty, filthy habit, and the government should not have any involvement in it at all. It should be done with.
Well, I've been. What do you think, Freddie?
I agree with the gentleman.
It is. It's the #1 killer. It kills more people than any other way of dying.
I know you're pressed for time, but people that are concerned and are trying to quit, what can we do to try help and get the government to know that this is what we want to do, even though we're addicted to it and are trying to quit? What can we do?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what can be done is the state governments, Fred, like the state of Wisconsin, they just added another 5 or 6 cents tax on the cigarettes. They should take that and set up treatment centers just like for alcoholics and drug addicts and let people go into treatment for 21 days and dry out from the nicotine. It's an addictive drug. It addicts. It's more addictive than heroin.
Yes.
People can get off heroin, but they still smoke.
Yes.
They need to get into treatment. Maybe it might take two or three times in treatment, but
Well, I think they may need it a little longer than that,
I know what you mean.
because I see in what was it in Minnesota, the Midwest Challenge.
Teen Challenge?
Yes, that they did keep them there longer, and they were more successful.
Yeah, that Teen Challenge is pretty important. Okay, we better take this call, Fred, and then you better get that last article up because we only got 2 minutes left. Go ahead, caller.
Yes.
You're on the air.
I just called to tell you that dots on your nose now again, and I was wondering if you ever took a poop so big it hurt coming out of your butt.
Okay, Fred, it's obvious that the college students are back in town. You know it?
Yes. Now, Gingrich shocks pro-life conservatives. On a recent Face of the Nation, Gingrich came out for federal funding of abortions in cases of rape and incest, a major concession going well beyond and indeed contradicting the Roe principle that abortion is justified by the right to privacy.
Well, you know, that's really something, Fred.
And that's from the Republican National Committee for Life report.
Well, you know, Fred, there's a standoff going on up there in Canada right now between Native Indians and the Canadian police. They've been shooting back and forth. There's about 30 Indians holed up in a ranch up there that they claim is Indian property, 275 miles north of Vancouver, way up in there. Fred.
Yes.
And could very well turn into another Ruby Ridge or Waco type deal there. I guess the Canadian police have surrounded it. Well, we want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight, and we'll see you right here again next week on the Cow Report. I've been your host, Chucky Formel, and with me is Fred the True Stafford, and we'll see you.
Well, that's an alias there.
We'll
It's
see you
Chuck
right
Lee.
here next week on the Cow Report. Adios.
Arrivederci.